very much for that lovely introduction. As mentioned, my name is Joe. Oh, actually, they got my last name up there. Originally, it just said Joe. I was going to be an enigma, but I don't get to do that anymore. I apologize if I'm not at my full level of, I guess, effort today. Like most of you, I was woken up at 5 a.m. by my lights flashing and my TV coming on. Those of you who weren't, lucky you. But for those of you who are wondering, yes, it did happen to a lot of us. So yeah, he knows what I'm talking about. So welcome to Validator 101. What are the essential tools to stay ahead? Again, my name's Joe. I'm with the core team at Vault Staking. I'll be moderating this panel. To my immediate left, we have Ola Muse. Oh, no, you guys didn't, you gotta look at the labels. You gotta look. So to avoid confusion, they have moved. Thank you very much. I was gonna say, I was like, that's not right. We have Ola Muse from Scale 3, and I'll give them a little bit of time to introduce themselves. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Ola Muse. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Scale 3 Labs. We are a software as a service company, do infrastructure in Web3. We have 3 core products today. We have a Pilot, which is an observability platform that does monitoring, alerting, logging for blockchains and validator nodes. We also have a product called Node Pilot, and Node Pilot does help you deploy any protocol you want on your own cloud or on on-prem infrastructure. So any validator protocol, any RPC protocol, we can help you deploy it. The last product we have is our data intelligence, blockchain intelligence platform, and that allows you to get high signal information when it comes to how you manage your nodes. The last gentleman just talked about being slashed, and we all know that every protocol goes through at least 14 upgrades, 14 patches a year. How you quickly respond to that, our blockchain intelligence software gives you that opportunity to be able to quickly respond to any issues you have around your validator to avoid slashing. Thanks.
Perfect, and I apologize in advance if I butcher anyone's last name. Too late, right? And then to his left, we have Victor Cerio with Tres Finance.
Yes, I'm Victor Cerio, representing Trace Finance. We are a Web3 accounting, treasury management, and data providing platform. We also offer an enterprise-grade API. We proudly support 100+ networks so that all of your data can be accounted for, reconciled, and presented for audit-ready compliance reporting. As we know, there has been growing regulatory concerns, and that is where we come into play.
Wonderful, thank you. Immediately to his left, we have Peter Bärnreuther. Is close enough with Chainproof?
Yep, it's a difficult one. Peter Bärnreuther, Chief Underwriting Officer of Chainproof. Chainproof is a fully regulated insurance company from Bermuda for Web3 specific risks. So we are ensuring, for example, smart contracts risk or here relevant slashing risks. We are a joint venture of Sompo and Quantstamp. So Sompo is the second largest insurance company of Japan. Quantstamp is a leading security provider in Web3 with our relevant audit, one of the biggest auditing companies. And so basically we bring these 2 worlds together to offering smart contract and slashing insurance.
Wonderful, thank you very much. And then last but certainly not least on the far left, we have, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Good
morning, everyone. My name is Qiang. Actually, QU is my family name. I come from Huawei Cloud Blockchain Lab. Right now, I'm in charge of blockchain business as well as the products design in Huawei Cloud. Actually, like talking about the blockchain business, Huawei has been running the business for a few years. We have started the business since 2018. But last year, during my visit to some conferences, actually, I was approached by several customers from Huawei Cloud partners. And they are requesting, like, because, like setting up the Web3 is pretty hard for them. So basically, we are requested to provide some products that can, simplify their business process and help them to, like accelerate the innovation of Web3. That's why since last year we have started the business and the design of the products on the Web3. So this year we released the product is called Huawei Cloud Node Engine Service, and later I will give a very short introduction about these products as well and why we have designed products for this market. Thank you very much.
Perfect. So kick things off, let's talk a little bit about, well, Validator 101. Part of the big things we're looking at nowadays, validators, we've been working in this space for better part of a decade at this point, but what does the life cycle of validator operations look like for your various projects?
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, perfect. I'll start, and it's very important we're having a discussion, right? Because I think blockchain is decentralized, it is math, right? And on top of that, we're building different technologies, right? But the challenge we have today is there is no standardization. Every protocol has a different language. Sui has Move, there's Solidity, there's Rust, there's C, there's Go, right? And you build your protocol, your language into a validator that you have to support, right? And the challenge you have is all dispersed. Decentralization is good, but we need standard at the core level of a blockchain infrastructure, right? The picks and shovels, the SRE, the DevOps work, the operational work that no one wants to do. Everybody talks about it at a higher level, right? L2, smart contracts, all that still comes back to the node itself and how do you manage the node. So having standardization there around how you deploy it, how you monitor it, how you log it, how you debug it, how you respond to it, how you report on it is super important. And we don't have that standard today, right? Again, quick plug, Scale 3 is providing that standard. We are ex-Coinbase employees. I ran 40 plus protocol at Coinbase, and that was the challenge. How do you maintain that every day, right? And we don't have standards today. Everybody does it differently. Every protocol company has an SRE that does it their own way, and that's the challenge we have today. Yes, we have different protocols, different language, but the standards on how we deploy it, how we manage it, how we report on it, how we debug it, how we fix issues around it, that needs to be standard. And that's kind of the future of a life cycle for managing a blockchain. So.
Yeah, and to kind of continue that point of when you're on, like a lot of validators now as the industry is growing, they're supporting 30, 40, 50 plus chains, and it gets much more complex in this life cycle. And so what we've seen, at least, is it becomes increasingly less cost effective to be able to provide the infrastructure for each and every single one. So with again, different coding, different data standards, how it's organized, the different DeFi that you can do on each one of the platform gets more and more complex. And so that's something that we've seen as being really important. Again, this is going to come from more of the accounting, the financial reconciliation, everything else perspective, because that's what we do. But just being able to account for all of your assets in one single place is going to be really important, rather than having totally different disparate data sets in order to be able to be compliant, be ready, audit ready. I come from more of the financial audit. I know more of the technical audits. And it's just a problem that we've seen throughout the life cycle and as the industry grows. This increasing complexity in terms of being able to track all of your different assets, and particularly with DeFi, because a lot of auditors have no idea what to do if you just present them with okay, I've wrapped curve and this and that, and I have 2 different claimable rewards. So I think along with this growing complexity, which you spoke to, needs to be a little bit more of a growing complexity of the coverage of it.
Quantum and Chainproof provide node operator security through the whole life cycle. So at Quantum, we built great vulnerability scanner, which scans against all these well-known vulnerability, be it DoD sticks or CIS, to really get the security right during the whole node operator life cycle. We as well do manual checks, and we not only do stacks checks out of the box, but really check against slashing relevant risks, like which starts as easy, like can I access your servers from the internet, or is your anti-slashing database persistent, and getting, of course, much more complicated than that. And you get as well an audit report. You have time, like it in a smart contract audit, you can then have time to fix all the vulnerabilities, be re-audited, and you get an audit report which you can share with your customers or with potential clients to get really to get things moving. So we care there very much about the security, and then Chainproof is as well willing after an infrastructure audit to ensure you as a node operator, which might as well be a great signaling effect for your company.
Yeah, I think the three gentlemen already gave a lot of explanations about the life cycle of the validators. But in addition to that, I think of course the validator is very important for the security as well as maintaining the whole network, right? So basically, validators are very important for the whole protocol. But the thing is, validator has to go through a number of transitions during their life cycle, with a lot of constraints, as well as the number of, for example, the number of ethers they have to deposit, as well as slashing policy, as well as the number of time constraints as well. But the thing, in addition to that, how we can get the validators on board for the deposit is actually very important, because, for example, if a validator has to synchronize the whole ledger for 2 weeks, of course, this is very time consuming, because when there is a long queue in the deposit or the pending stage, it is not good for the revenue of the validator as well. But when the validators are running, the quality of the quality of the performance is also very important for the validators. So during the whole process of the life cycles, I think how we can guarantee the validators can get on the board quickly, can have the testing or proposing, stages effectively, are very important for the life cycle of the validators.
Perfect, thank you very much. So we talked a little bit about the life cycle of validators there. You also mentioned a lot of problems, hurdles, speed bumps that validators are going to go through. And we're entering yet another new era of Web3. I'm not going to use the word because that's just bad mojo in my opinion. But at the end of the day, what kind of problems are validators facing today? And maybe even more specifically, what kind of problems are they facing today that they may not have been facing 2-3 years ago?
Yeah, so I'm happy to take this one. It's really interesting that we've seen as these kind of bull markets, bear markets kind of come into play, as you were alluding to before, and hopefully we're going to be in a bull very soon. But I think especially in the US, and it's, again, I'm going to harp on this point one more time, is that with regulatory clarity coming into the purview and just being able to have that clarity around how digital assets are going to be tracked, reported by the SEC or whoever else, you don't really want to get hit with a Wells notice. So validators are going to be, I think, and everybody else in the industry, they're going to have a little bit sharper eye on them. They're going to want to be much more compliant. They, again, really don't want to get hit with a Wells notice or in any other way be uncompliant in some of the largest markets. There's London, which tends to be a little bit, have better regulatory clarity, and some of the rest of the world as well. But I think we're going to see a lot of those changes come into play. And then with those growing, concerns, it's going to be, they really want to have everything internally buttoned up. And again, that's kind of what I was talking about before. I think Peter was talking about the technical audits. You don't want to get slashed. You don't want to have any of those problems. And where we really see the problem is going to be being compliant. It's going to have all of your assets. You'll have your books kept by the end of the month. Close out your quarters. And if you can't do that, it's really going to put you behind the rest of the industry. And so that's one of the biggest problems we've seen, and a growing problem on the horizon that is a little bit of a headwind. But again, like, I don't think it's going to be a problem in terms of those who are willing to put the time and effort into it.
Just to add to what you said. Hello? Okay. I think two things that I see is one, just because of the industry, we need to see Validator as not just as a quick money scheme, like, oh yeah, get a validator, make money, because that is bad for the industry. Like, oh yeah, the purpose of having a validator is to make money and that's it, right? We definitely don't want that perception, right? And which is why regulators always worry about, hey, yeah, crypto is all about making quick money and going away, right? So how to change that mindset comes back to the second statement I'm making now with regards to making it easy for Web 2 to unwrap into Web 3 and engage with a validator in a secure, standardized way that is documented, that can be audited, that will make the SEC or any regulatory company feel comfortable, is where we need to get to, right? But if validators keeps being seen as a quick money scheme, yeah, I get a validator, I do this, I make money, I go away, it's not gonna help. How to make it seamlessly to engage in Web 2 for the financial institutions to engage with your nodes, to talk to them, they feel comfortable that it can be audited and the books that looks good, helps tremendously. Again, blockchain, infrastructure, math, open ledger, all that is great, but today it's still very noisy, right? And which is why people worry, right? So changing that perception will be great, and also being able to engage with Web 2 infrastructure seamlessly will be great as well. So.
Yeah. So when we are talking to validators, an upcoming challenge is always how to differentiate yourself. Yeah, because even if you have a great tech, if you're talking perhaps to an institutional client who's more on the non-technical side, how can you convince them that you're basically one of the validator you should stake with them? And here you can basically always do quite some signaling effects. Yeah, like we are staking like 200 million assets under stake. I think this always, of course, helps. But now we are seeing a lot of validators going into the direction of getting a SOC 2 audit and ISO 27K audit. This, of course, helps with institutionals and with mass adoption. And we try to get even then one step further in the differentiation to offer specific Web3 infrastructure audits and insurance, basically, which is as well a differentiator and a signaling effect.
Okay, so talking about the challenges, I think, because I'm from Huawei Cloud, right? We are like cloud services provider. Actually running validators, I mean, we have multiple choices. I mean, you can run your validator yourself. You can purchase bare metal machines and install all the things yourself, right? You can also working with cloud service providers. But nowadays, we find actually the majority of validators are running on the cloud services. And the reason is that we have the stable services. We can guarantee, for example, the bandwidth, as well as some monitoring services to provide a professional, like monitoring services for the performance, as well as for some other operations or management, maintenance services. But cloud services, there are multiple cloud services as well. But why, actually I was asked by a lot of people why Huawei Cloud is looking into this business, right? So why the Huawei Cloud are providing the support for validators or providing support for operators. We are doing that because we also see the upcoming challenges, especially that for a validator or operator, when you are setting up the services, you have to go through the basic knowledge. What are the protocols you are working with? What are the clients that you can choose from, or how to do the configuration as an expert, right? And all those things are actually like make the entry barrier of the validator business very high. So basically, to simplify the management process of the node management, we provide additional layer to the cloud services. So basically, the validators or operators, they can set up for example, the full node easily within seconds on Huawei Cloud with the node engine service. And based on that, we are also looking for, because, during the validation or testing or proposing process, actually it's a very risky process actually. And there are slashing problem. There are also like, for example, the availability of the node, or we can say the stability of the node, the nodes. So basically, based on the availability of the nodes, because as we know, like if we have a node, the nodes can normally support hundreds or thousands of validators, right? If the node is not is facing some failure, then there will be a single failure, the single point of failure problem, and this is a disaster for the validators. So to improve the testing or proposing process, we are also introducing a lot of algorithms or some other techniques to optimize the process of the testing and the proposing of blocks. But finally, why we are doing validating? Because the users want to increase their revenue, right? Even though the revenue seems very small when we are running 1 or 2 validator, but when we have hundreds of validators, when we have thousands of validators, then even though 0.1 or 0.5% of the APR will be very large, right, for the investors. So basically, how to improve the effectiveness, how to improve the revenue for the validators are very important for the whole community, I think.
And I was just going to chime on something Ola said. I think with a few of the bad players within the industry, like FTX, I think SBF just got, he's convicted of all 7 charges. But we're seeing a lot of traditional fraud in blockchain, which is actually discovered a lot quicker because of blockchain. It has made a lot of people more wary of like these get-rich-quick schemes, so to speak. And it's that transparency, it's that auditability of the blockchain that I think is going to play a part in really making these validators be a lot more like legitimate, making any industry, asset managers, whatever vertical you want to go in. It's going to make it a lot more transparent. You're going to be able to see that fraud before it happens. That's why there was a run on FTX before they even discovered it. If it was traditional finance, it probably wouldn't have come out until like a year or 2 later, if ever. So I think that this, again, to your point of getting away from those like get-rich-quick schemes, the fraud, which has always been traditional, and then just having like that transparency. And what we've seen is although the blockchain is very transparent, it's not as accessible as people think, especially if you're running on 50 different chains in all of those different codes, all of the different data standards, everything else, trying to get archive nodes from block 0. It's expensive and quite complex. And so that's at least what we've seen, it being a problem, but having solutions for it really eliminates a lot of those problems. And a lot of the growing concerns, which a lot of people from outside the industry view some of us internally. So and sometimes we don't really see that. And I think that having that, again, transparency to a T is going to be incredibly important for moving the industry forward.
Definitely. And how fortunate that we're all at this conference together, and there are many presentations and projects we've seen that are actually pushing us towards these better security models and better compliance efforts, and keeping all those things top of mind as we move forward into what will remain unnamed. So last question then, for enterprise adoption, because, not to toot your horns, but you're all pretty big players here. What is missing right now in terms of the core tools that validators require?
I wouldn't say missing, but I think for enterprise companies, the path for them is either they partner with someone, they buy, or they build, right? And I think the future will be to partner first before they build, because the human capital of building a team to go do this is quite expensive, and to manage all that is very expensive as well. So between hiring the people, putting a team together, then building a process, it'll take a long time, right? So partnership will be key. A lot of Web2 companies now, we're seeing the pattern. They want to get into crypto, they want to get into Web3, but they used to a certain standards in Web2 that we have to adopt in Web3, and that's what we're talking about now. So now that we're doing those standards, it's easy for them to partner with us, right? If you're SOC 2 compliant and all the other compliance there, they understand that. They can API connect to you, partner with you, and they're on their way. So it's very, very critical that we just build for partnership. It's an easy entry for enterprise companies to kind of come in, right? So with Scale 3, that's what we are building towards, where we give you tools, Web 2, Web 3, for you to easily onboard into, start in a few minutes, you have a node running, the node is managed, you have a dashboard you can see, you have a way to auto-remediate it, and you don't have to go to different channels to get all that done, right? We have protocol companies that have an issue, and they're fixing that issue via Google Docs, right? That's not the future, right? I mean, a Web 2 financial institution is not gonna come to you when you're fixing issues on Google Docs, right? You need those tools, right? And we have those tools to support that for you, where you don't really have to think about engaging with a node, again, seamlessly. Gaming industry, they engage with Web3 today, is seamless to them. They don't want to worry about paying gas and doing all this, right? Fix all that for me. I just want to play a game. I want to write my code to run games. And what happens underneath, fix it. I don't want to think about it, right? And that's the future for enterprise companies to engage with Web3, right? So from my perspective, so.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point as well. So I think that kind of going on to that of having those solutions, which people are very they're built out, fixing all the bugs, doing everything themselves. What I've seen in the Web3 industry, and what really inspires me, and it's great, is that there's this very strong entrepreneurial spirit. So they want to build everything from the core up, and a lot of times they have 30, 40 devs, and they're working on an entire vertical stack, which sometimes can be time consuming, right? And they're not working on their core competency, which is what a lot of PE firms do, is they go and they rip everything out and they have them focus on their core competency and what actually generates returns, right? And so that's something I've seen and appreciated in terms of being able to build it yourself, and that's wonderful, but having more of that partnership model, working with somebody else who has those expertise, who can do it more efficiently, who can do it for cheaper, is, again, we use plenty of partners to do certain features that, whether it's comes to payments or something else, right? We work with accounting firms as well. We don't charge by the hour. We're a SaaS-based model. We don't do that, right? So I find that really leaning on the industry players who are ahead of the game is always a very important point, and it also bolsters the ecosystem. It allows you to focus on what you're good at, and it allows the partner or whoever you're building with, buying from, selling to, whatever the case may be, to really focus on their core competencies as well. And yeah.
I see a totally similar development in the security area. I only want to mention really two interesting projects. The first one is VSP Pro. It was announced yesterday by Staking Rewards, where basically there's a partnership between Staking Reward on QuantStamps for the VSP Pro. A little bit more details on that is that it basically includes an infrastructure audit, that Staking Rewards can really verify the setup, your infrastructure setup, and that it's as you said. The second initiative is from Lido. It just also approved the DAC initiative, and if you want to meet the experts, they are there in the front row. And they want to, it's a little bit more complex, but one part is here to standardize the security and the best practices for node operators. And I think that's as well a great tool, especially for node operators who try to start up and try to find best practices and in this space.
All right. So from the technology point, I think a number of technology can be introduced for the enterprise or institutional clients. For enterprise adoption, I think it is kind of massive adoption of the validators, right? So for the massive adoption, basically I think the performance or the quality of the services are very important for these clients because they require the safety of the assets, the performance of the services should be stable, as well as the availability of all the services should be supported by professionals. So in this case, I think there are a number of things that we can do for the community. For Huawei Cloud as us, the NES, the Node Engine Service, as one of the first staking service providers among the cloud providers, I think we are supporting the operators as well as the validators, especially these massive validators who want to simplify for example, their configurations because we can do all the things like node hosting within seconds. The second, we provide sophisticated tools for the monitoring of the performance of validators, your machines, as well as your nodes. Even one, we run multiple nodes for a bunch of validators. If one node is down, we can simultaneously switch to the other nodes. So basically, the professionals or the enterprise services will not be interrupted, even though some nodes are not serving, right? In this case. For the massive adoption, I think the most important thing is the scalability because it's not one validator or two. We have the scale, the validator scales to hundreds or even thousands of validators, right? So that's all from me. So I hope that everyone can try Huawei Cloud Node Engine Service. Thank you very much.
Perfect. All right, well, that brings us to the end. We're over time. I know they were flashing the watch at me. So thank you very much for sitting down with us today and our lovely panel. Give them a big round of applause because that was exceptionally informative. Thank you so much for sitting with me.